Hello, everyone. My name is Leo Vasilou, Director of Product Marketing. First, I want to say thank you very much for giving us your time. And second, I just want to say that we're here to spend a few minutes offering some thoughts and brain framing comments before you read the seventh edition of our SRE report, the SRE Report 2025.
I'm Kurt Anderson, software architect.
And I'm Sergi Katsev, VP of Engineering at Catchpoint. So I guess to start off, Leo, what's the SRE report and why is it called the SRE report?
Why is it called the SRE report? Well, I guess it could be called anything, right? The Make It Better report, the annual report that comes out from this company once a year around this time. But really, I think the idea is it has to have a relative distinguished name to use an old LDAP term, so that it can be used in a conversation and be used as a reference point. But Serge, I think the question that I really heard, the question hidden within your question is, do I have to be an SRE to get any value from it or appreciate reading it? So what do you think? Is this just for SREs or no?
I did not have SRE in my title, but certainly I work with a lot of SREs. I work with a lot of engineers. And for me personally, it helps frame my mind into how to work with these people. What are they working on? What kinds of problems they see? And frankly, it shows me what the state of the industry is. So I hope that others who are not SREs have the same experience with it. Kurt, what about you? What do you think about when you are thinking about this report? What should people be thinking about before they start reading it?
Well, again, I think the reliability is the aspect that out of the S and the R and the E that really is the focus here. That we're looking at the reliability practices, and we tried to frame it this way when we put the survey out originally, even that you don't have to be an SRE to participate. If you care about reliability, we want your input. And that's the value of this process that's been occurring, as Leo pointed out now, for 7 years. Over time, we've been able to see how these practices have changed, how they've stayed the same. And it's been a very interesting process, especially if you go back and look at some of the older ones. I don't expect most of the readers will, but some of the graphs in the report, we do talk about historical. It's like over the last X number of years, here's how this has changed.
And in addition to our names and titles, I think it's appropriate to mention that we are part of the core team who brought this year's report to life, right? We're part of the team and various contributions, whether it's analysts, author, contributors, Kurt, right? You being one of them. What what surprised you the most in this year's report? What do you think people are going to look at and be like, what the heck?
Well, I had the advantage of being able to help frame some of the questions. And so as we went back and forth in figuring out what topics to ask about this year, do people consider slow performance to be important was one of the kind of research questions that we came in with. And I was gratified to see that, yes, this is something that isn't just a corner case, if you like, of a few people caring about performance, but that an awareness that performance is important has a pretty broad base. So I was really happy to see that. So, Sergey, what struck you out of the report this year?
So for me, I thought the most, let's call it interesting thing was, and I don't mean to be selfish, but it was the part that I was quoted in. And so my quote basically talks about how incidents are always going to happen. There's nothing you can do about it, right? You can certainly structure your teams and your systems and your software to prevent that and to respond to them better and iterate on those to improve things, but they're going to happen anyway. And so I gave that quote, and then I went to the movies to see Wicked with my family. And we're sitting there in the middle of the movie, and it's quiet, of course, from the audience, and the movie is going on. And all of a sudden, I hear an Ops Genie alert. I don't know if either of you have ever heard it, but on iOS, on Android, it goes through your silent, your vibrate setting, right? It is very loud and rings out in the whole theater. And it wasn't, luckily, it wasn't me, right? It was somebody else. So the whole audience is giving this person dirty looks, shushing them while he gets up and very carefully walks out of the theater. And I'm just thinking like, oh, that poor guy. I hope everything is okay with whatever system he is running.
Yeah, with reliability as a feature is like, what is it? I don't know, incidents as a feature or something like.
Yeah.
That's one of the challenges, is that these things happen in inconvenient times.
Yeah. Death,
So
taxes, and incidents, I suppose.
yeah, something like that. So I talked a little bit about the questions and how we come in with, we've got some historical kind of trend lines that we try to collect data from. We usually have one or two topic areas that is like, let's explore this one. Leo, you want to talk a little bit about the process and what you come up with on how to present the data? Because we had 450 respondents to this year's survey, something in that range. And trying to make sense out of all of that input is a challenging task. And Leo is the maestro of the billion tab Excel worksheet.
Well, that is uh, uh, I will not in any way, shape, or form disagree with how challenging it can be to convey what you want to say in a visual, right? So, one of the challenging things is how the heck do we visualize? So, for the year over year stuff, we a couple of years ago we settled on doing a semi-advanced cumulative function because I just found that a powerful way to kind of present an entire distribution, but also to be able to do um, trend year over year, time period over time period comparisons in the same viewport. So I think that's very powerful. But the other thing that when I talk about trying to find data within the data, and actually let me just show you, do a quick screen share. Trying to find the data within the data, I think, is a beautiful thing. But also, I don't want to assume everybody knows, can visualize what I'm thinking in my head. And so, if I could just quickly ask, are you seeing this page? How stable or unstable are org priorities? Okay.
Looks
All right.
good.
So how stable or unstable are the priorities of your org? So, at a quick glance, you can see that the majority was a stable sentiment, right? 47 and 10 of stable and extremely stable. And then if we kind of scroll a couple of pages to this next question, give that a sec to catch up. Do you feel pressured to place releases as the priority, right? Agility as the priority instead of reliability. And you can see that the majority was, in the not so good side, meaning often and always. So take those two previous questions and combine them. So this is what I was meaning when I was talking about the beauty of the data within the data. So do you feel pressured to place agility as the priority, business agility, right? Business innovation as the priority instead of reliability, where the categories are the same, right? So no, I never feel pressure to prioritize agility over stability. And if you look at the color codes, the light blue and then to the black, those are the color codes that match the legend under the chart title, right? The question. And you can see that when people say, no, I never feel that pressure, they trend toward the stable sentiment, right? When people say, I seldomly feel that pressure, again, they trend toward the stable sentiment. When people say, sometimes we feel that pressure, they trend toward the stable sentiment. And then it flips. When people say, I often or always feel that pressure, production pressure to perform, the trend reverses and the trends toward the unstable sentiment. So that's just a quick down and dirty way to read um, those panel charts. But again, I think that's what gets to one of the challenging ways in how we address the challenge of getting some multi-dimensional visuals to convey some complex relationships. I also will just mention, while I do appreciate the accolades for the chart and graph whisperer, I will say that in nowhere in the report do we talk about crazy things like statistical significance and things like that. That's above my, so that's why we always try to use the word trends and let people kind of, apply their own decision lens to the meaning of those relationships.
But that said,
Indeed. So, and I would point out that we actually encourage the readers as they go through the report, when they get to the last section 7 in this one, we actually omitted any commentary and just give you the data. I will tip our hand a little bit and say this tended to support some discoveries that Leo and I made and then talked about at an SRE Con conference last year, no, 2 years ago. So we'd encourage people to read through that and then consider how it applies in their particular situations.
Well, I'll hold my comment to the end to wrap up, and I'll just kind of maybe turn it to Serge. Serge, any closing thoughts as we wrap it up?
Just to echo what Kurt just said, my favorite way to use the SRE report is to sanity check myself, my teams I work with, and see if we're really doing what we're supposed to be doing. And so I would love to hear from anyone reading it, watching this, and hopefully reading the report after, about whether you agree or disagree. And we love disagreements. Please tell us if you disagree.
Thank you for that, Serge. And I guess I'll go ahead and close this out here. So, Kurt, just to go back to what you were saying, that last insight, I don't know if it's my favorite. I don't know if I could possibly have a favorite because they're all our children, I guess. I will say that it is arguably the most deceptively powerful of the insights. And we didn't want to talk about it. I don't want to spoil it. I don't want to spoil it. So we entitled that insight, Acknowledge the Gap to Fix the Gap. And then we kind of just try to do a little bit of a switcheroo because the title came with a little bit of a connotation, but we flipped it in the insight itself. So I hope everyone enjoys the read, the SRE Reports 2025. Our names are on the camera, so please find us on LinkedIn if you want to send us some messages, give us some feedback, maybe offer ideas for the next one. But having said that, again, thank you everyone for giving us your time, and until next year.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye-bye.